Welcome back into another episode of the Daily Dose. I'm your host, Jeff Hansen. As always, the show is brought to you by CougarSportsInsider.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and by Give'emHellBrigham.com, a freemium-style newsletter where you can get BYU and BYU-related content delivered straight to your inbox. Thank you so much for subscribing and tuning in and sharing a little bit of your day with us here at the Daily Dose. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe. It really does help us out a lot. Like this video, share this video, and help us grow this platform and help us take over the BYU media world. I mean, that's really what our goal is here. Today, we continue our series looking at each BYU position group and assessing their readiness for the Big 12 Conference. As you all know, the Cougars are moving on from a BYU football independent to a member of the Big 12 and the Power 5 level. BYU's been playing a lot of Power 5 foes as a college football independent. So how ready are they for the Big 12? That's what we're looking at here in this series, and we're looking at it position by position. Today, we look at the running backs. And we just talked about the running backs here on the Daily Dose a few days ago after the commitment of Colorado transfer Deion Smith, and wondered to ourselves, is this the deepest BYU running back room ever? And I think that there's an argument to be made for one way or the other. But today we're going to look at more than just depth for 2023. We're going to assess 2023 and BYU's readiness into the future. So let's take a look at the report card for BYU. The depth, we could split hairs and we could really argue about what depth means. But in terms of bodies and in terms of talented players, there's a bunch of them. Aidan Robins, Deion Smith, Hinckley Ropati, Miles Davis, LJ Martin, Luve Hilo, even Enoch Nawahine and Soljay Meava-Peters. I mean, there's a lot of players who I think BYU feels that they can depend on. If we really wanted to get nuanced and get into the specifics, sure. Maybe Hinckley Ropati isn't as experienced as you'd like to really say that this is perfect depth. But I think the BYU's got 8 or 9 guys that in most years they'd feel pretty good about. That's really good depth from a high level and for a report card's purpose. The talent, really similar. I think that you wish you had another guy like LJ Martin in this room. Maybe you wish that Luve Hilo was a little bit more highly recruited, but I think BYU feels really comfortable with the talent on their roster. I don't think that anybody's complaining about the talent. The age in the future is interesting. I went back and forth on this grade a little bit because on the surface, Deion Smith, Aidan Robins, those are the guys going into the season. And Deion Smith has 1 year of eligibility remaining. Robins has 2, but it seems likely that he only plays 1. And if you take just those 2, it's easy to say that, well, the future of the running back position doesn't look so hot. But I think that it does. Even if you get beyond Ropati and Miles Davis, who could move on from the program in the next year or two themselves, you've got Luve Hilo and you've got LJ Martin. And those are 2 really talented running backs that BYU is going to have for a number of years, assuming all goes well and they don't transfer out of the program early, which maybe that's a false assumption to make here in this era of college football. But all things considered, I think that you have to feel really confident about the future of the BYU running back room for the next few years. Experience is where you have to dock them a little bit on the report card. Aidan Robins has a ton of experience at UNLV, but really he's got 1 year of experience and really not a lot to speak of at the Power 5 level. Deion Smith has played 4 years at Colorado, and he's played in each of those 4 years, but he was never really a consistent contributor until this last season. So his experience isn't a ton. And then beyond that, there's not really any meaningful experience to speak of. Ropati and Davis, you have a few dozen carries apiece, but beyond that, that's really it. So there's not a ton of experience, though I think you can rely pretty heavily on a 1,000-yard rusher in Aidan Robins. But beyond that, there's not a lot of experience. And at the coaching position, we've got to start talking more about Harvey Unga, whether it's Lopini Katoa, whether it's Tyler Algier, whether it's Chris Brooks, no matter who it is, BYU has consistently produced really talented running backs. And going into this year, from a recruiting perspective, for Unga to be able to reload the running back room with guys like Smith and Martin and Robins, you have to start giving Harvey Unga a ton of credit. It looks like he has taken the momentum that was gained by AJ Stewart when he was here at BYU before he left for Oregon State. And Harvey has just taken it to a completely different level. He has found a position of consistency at the running back room. He is consistently reloading out of the transfer portal and consistently producing at a high level from a coaching perspective. All in all, that's a 20 out of 25. You're feeling pretty good. Maybe you wish you had a little bit more experience. Maybe you wish you had that 5-star bell cow in your pipeline. But overall, there's not really anything to complain about when you look at the running back room at BYU for the next couple of seasons. I give the overall grade a B-. You could make an argument that it could be a little bit higher than that as well. But I'm at a B- for today, and I feel really good going into 2023. If you liked this video, please take a minute, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future content here at the Daily Dose. And until next time, give 'em hell.